Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Monday review time, looking back at the Charlton win at the weekend. Plenty to get through in terms of that 90 minutes, the before, the during and the after. We'll be joined by Reece, Gillingham fan, to give us his review of the proceedings at the Valley at the weekend. And then after that, I'll be looking ahead to Tuesday night, 6 p.m. kickoff. Another tough one for Steve Evans' men as he takes on his former club, Peterborough. The rearranged game from Boxing Day, which was postponed because of COVID issues in the Peterborough camp. But firstly, back to Saturday. Big 3-2 win at the Valley. Only our second victory at that ground in our entire history. The first one coming 3 years ago, just over on New Year's Day 2018, when we won by 2-1, courtesy of Josh Parker and Tom Eaves. Every bit as good at the weekend for me. We've got that goal to talk about from Connor Ogilvie, how we deserved it, how Lee Bowyer was in the wrong for saying that the game was Charlton's and only theirs to win without the sending off of Chucksanike. Have we ever scored a better collection of goals in the same game? Certainly in recent memory, I can't remember three as good in 190 minutes. John Akindi, absolutely superb throughout. We'll talk about him. And Carl Dempsey just keeps getting better and better and better with every passing game. Right, but I will leave you now in the hands of Reece. Here is his review of the weekend.
So Saturday's result, performance, the whole package really was a 90 minutes that I personally found really enjoyable. Not just for the result, obviously beating local rivals, which Charlton are obviously. I don't see it as a massive rivalry or anything like that, but you know, they're realistically the most local club to us in League One this season, so it's always nice to try and get one over on them. And yeah, I thought over the piece, I don't think anyone can really begrudge us taking the 3 points back to Priestfield. Obviously there was a little bit of concern pre-match when we all saw the team come out and see there was no Callum Slattery and more importantly Jordan Graham, who were missing through injury. But I still looked at it and thought that, you know, we still had the likes of Lee, Dempsey in there. We know what Oliver and Akindi will give us, and I think there was always still enough there to cause problems to a Charlton team that have struggled at home this season. And it was just a case of wait until sort of 5-3 to find out that the game was actually going ahead, because there was talk amongst some of the Charlton side of the media that Evans wanted it off and Gillingham don't fancy us today. But I think that theory was put to bed within the first 30 seconds of the game when we take a really early lead. Let's be honest, it's a decent goal. Obviously it comes initially from a long ball forward, which is what we do a lot of. But John Akindi does really well to pick up on what it's a ridiculous header from Deji Oshalaja. And from what I see of him yesterday, I don't think he looks any better a player than what he did when he played for us a few years ago. It was a suicidal header across his own box, and Akindi's done really well to latch onto it and tee up Ollie Lee, who, let's be fair, he still has an awful lot of work to do from sort of 20-25 yards out, and that's the quality that he brings us. He brings us that experience and that calmness in those attacking areas, and it was a superb finish to stroke it into the corner. But that kind of move is what I think is the best of John Akindi. I know he's not a prolific goal scorer, and I don't think he's going to be, but I think he does a lot more of that kind of stuff than people actually realise. And I think if you look back at all our goals since he signed, I think his involvement will be a lot heavier than some people actually give him credit for. But all in all, that was obviously a fantastic start for us. But to be honest, the first 10-15 minutes of the game itself were, I'd probably say it was a bit broken really. It was more like a basketball game than a football match. You know, we obviously scored, and then we hit the post from a corner. Meanwhile, Charlton hit the woodwork themselves, and Robbie Cundy cleared one off the line after Bonham got rounded, and this was all in the sort of the first 10-15 minutes of the game. So we were sort of waiting for it to settle down, and unfortunately that moment didn't come before Charlton equalised, and it's just one of those really. I've not looked at it back, but there's talk that it could have been offside, but I'm not too sure. But it's just one of those unfortunate things where obviously Stuart O'Keefe falls over, and then it leaves us outnumbered. I've seen people criticise Ryan Jackson for it, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge fan of Ryan Jackson, but I don't think our shape was particularly bad in that situation. Obviously, Jackson's gone forward from our previous attack, and O'Keefe was one of the more defensive-minded midfielders in that team, has done the right thing, and he's sat in and covered for Jackson, who's bombed on, and O'Keefe's just made a mistake that he's obviously not done deliberately. You know, he's not at his best at the moment, where he's come back from such a long injury, and obviously, as we know from the talk pre-match, the pitch wouldn't have been in great conditions and may not have helped, and he's just slipped over. That's football, that can happen. And then, like I say, they had an overload, and to be fair to them, they made the most of it and made us pay, and that was 1-1, and then it was game on from there. And we responded well to the goal. We were still looking a threat when we was getting the ball forwards, getting it up to Oliver and Akindi ourselves, and yeah, and then for us to go back in front, it's like everyone said, we can end the goal of the season now. For me, not just in terms of internally at the football club, but in League One, possibly the EFL as a whole, it's an absolute joke. If Carl Dempsey scored that, we'd be going absolutely insane about it, let alone a fullback. And for me, the most incredible thing about it for me is that Lee does really well in the first place just to flick it over the defender's head, but what it is for me, it's the height the ball drops from for Ogilvy to then hit it flush first time on the volley the way he did, and it just absolutely arrowed into the top corner. And I admire the Charlton keeper for even bothering to make an attempt to save it. It was just one of them. And to be fair to Lee Bowyer, he said in his own comments after the game that sometimes it's football, that happens. You can't pick apart that goal too much. It's one of them moments you just have to stand and applaud. And that obviously gave us a 2-1 lead at half time, which was really, really positive. And we was looking to hopefully try and build on that, maybe try and get the third goal early in the second half and put the game to bed, but it didn't really pan out that way. Charlton, as you'd expect, being behind at half time, came out and had a really good go at us, and obviously got the equaliser. I think you could probably argue that one of the two centre-halves can do better to try and pick Stockley up so that he's not unmarked inside the penalty area, but I've got to be honest, it's a really, really good header, because it looks like the ball's slightly behind him, so he's had to sort of lean back and adjust and managed to nod it past Bonham. So I've no real complaints about that goal. 2-2, and then it's game on. Lee Bowyer said he was adamant that all the time it was 11v11, they would go on to win the game. I didn't see it like that. I thought at 2-2, I thought all three results were on the cards with the way the game was going. And obviously we have the big turning point, which is the red card, which obviously Charlton, rightly so, would be unhappy about because they've suffered from it. For me, I think the referee just about gets it right. And EK bundles into two of our players in the space of 2 or 3 seconds. So whether a ref has decided to book him for one of them, or the fact that he's done 2 so quickly, I think that's a warranted yellow card on the Tottenham one there. And then a minute later, he's made a genuine attempt to play the ball, but he's missed it. His studs are up, his foot is high, it catches Conor Ogilvy in the knee. Whether it's a lot of contact or not, he catches him, he has to go. And from then it was just a case of us picking our moment to then go and really turn the screw and take the game to him and try and make the man advantage count. And we left it later than I'd have liked, but you know, we gave them the warning when Lee hit the bar of a really good strike just seconds before, and then obviously the ball gets worked out to Kyle Dempsey, and we've seen numerous times this season that's the quality he has to drive into the box and absolutely hammer it home. And then from there, you know, with the man more, we managed the game really, really well, which is something we do brilliantly under Evans. Obviously, we went 1-0 up after 30 seconds, and ever since he's been in charge, we've only lost 1 league game when we scored the first goal, which is a really, really good record. And yeah, three points, a rare away win at the Valley, which we've not done too many times in our history, but one that I think we deserved. And to be honest, the 3 goals that we have scored, I think, are worthy of winning any football match, to be honest. And yeah, you know, we've only lost 1 of the last 6 games at 3 wins from those 6. So I do think we are getting there gradually. It's just we need to try and build on this now and go and make it 10, 11 games with just the 1 defeat, rather than now losing a couple. And then we might be able to start really climbing to that top half of the table. But all in all, a really good Saturday afternoon of football. And yeah, a good 3 points.
Excellent stuff in there from Reece, as always. Really enjoy listening to his thoughts on all things Gillingham and all things football, in fairness. Got a very good football brain. Pretty level-headed, I think, in terms of doesn't get too excited about the wins and certainly doesn't get too downhearted if we do lose. But yeah, picked up on a few key points that Reece has brought up. The first one, we deserve the win. I totally agree. I've seen the comments that Lee Bowyer's made. I've referenced them. I've spoken about them seriously. I've made jokes about them. I thought we were good. We were full value. We've scored 3 really good goals. They've had their spells in the game. They've had more of the ball as the home side, but I thought we were better than them. I thought we took our chances better when they came along. Aside from that opening period where the game was very open and both sides decided not to defend, I thought we reacted really well and grew defensively as the game went on. They had their little spell at the start of the second half, which we'll get on to, but I thought defensively we handled them pretty well. I don't remember Jayden Stockley really doing anything aside from the header that he scored from. So yeah, totally agree with Reece. 3 points well deserved, and don't think there can be any excuses or complaints from Charlton, even though there were. In terms of the team selection, obviously the big news ahead of the game was no Callum Slattery and no Jordan Graham. I mentioned before kickoff, I didn't think it was as much of a disaster as some were making out. Obviously, it's disappointing to have 2 good players unavailable, but I referenced the game against Crewe when we played the Diamond. Obviously, the only difference there was that Jordan Graham was one of the front 2. Obviously, not available this weekend, but it was the same shape. It was Stuart O'Keefe coming in for Callum Slattery in that midfield 4. That's no downgrade for me, especially once Stuart gets up to full speed after this long-term injury. And yeah, I think John Akindi and Verdane Oliver both gave the centre-backs a proper game, didn't they? So I don't think it was a downgrade in that area of the pitch as well. And it was balanced, and we pressed when we needed to, and we took our chances, like I say, and both the front men performed their roles and a big part in what we did and ultimately claiming the 3 points. One of them was John Akindi. Thought he was absolutely superb. Reece mentions that he does all the unseen work, which is correct. There's not a lot of strikers that do the role that he does that get loads of credit. We'd obviously love him to score more goals for us, and I think he would as well. And he's come out and been open about that and said that he should have scored a few more this season. He's had chances that he'd back himself to put away, and unfortunately he hasn't for one reason or another. But just breaking him down a little bit further, he's got 4 goals and 6 assists in all competitions this season, and they've come from 1,590 minutes on the pitch. Bearing in mind we've played over 30 fixtures now, I think, in all competitions. He's only started 15. So it's a direct goal contribution every 159 minutes for Big John. So that's every game and 3 quarters, roughly, which isn't a disaster at this level, not by any stretch of the imagination. And I've said for weeks, I think he's been in decent nick. He's certainly influencing games more than he was in the early part of the campaign, and long may it continue. Like Reece mentioned, first half was a bit open, a bit like a basketball game. I likened it to a computer game of FIFA where you just play loads of attacking players and one team has an attack, the other team has an attack, and it was like that, but in real life. And it was 1-1, I think, after about 25 minutes. We'd hit the post, they'd hit the bar and post, and it could have been 3-2 either way, in all fairness, but it wasn't. It was 1-1. Stuart O'Keefe's at fault for their goal, unfortunately. Like Reece has mentioned, he's seen on social media and on Twitter and on our Facebook page people blaming Ryan Jackson. Ryan Jackson's got nothing to do with that in terms of being at fault. We've played an attacking phase of football. He's up the pitch. Stuart O'Keefe's the one that's dropped in, and if you look at it, we've got 4 back. Stuart O'Keefe's fielding where Ryan Jackson is. It's just one of them, like Reece has mentioned. Could it be the pitch? That it wasn't great. It was obviously icy before the game, and that's why there was a doubt of the game going ahead. Stuart O'Keefe's had a nightmare. I'm sure he's big enough and ugly enough to admit that. He's had a fresh air shot. They've broken and got an overload and they've scored. It's one of them. The thing was, we reacted really well. And then a couple of minutes before the break, Conor Ogilvie decided to turn into prime Zinedine Zidane, didn't he? And Reece has mentioned that he doesn't think just internally, but perhaps in the whole of the EFL, not just League One, not just League Two, that could be goal of the season. For me, if we see a better strike than that in the rest of the campaign, I cannot wait to see it. I don't care who it's from, what club it is, as long as it's not against us. then I can't wait to see it if there's going to be a better goal than Conor Ogilvy's. You will not see a purer strike of a football. There's no crowd in these games at the moment, and that's the only disappointing thing for me, that we weren't in that away end, because it would have been absolute bedlam for that and Carl Dempsey's late winner as well. But the thing that you can benefit is you heard how sweet the connection was when it dropped out the sky, and Conor caught it absolutely flush. I think the ball was still going up as it hit the back of the net. Like Reece joked and said, Ben Amos, bless him, he's made a token attempt to save it, but you could have had 3 keepers in that net. Not one of them would have got anywhere near it. Such was the ferocity and the accuracy. An absolutely brilliant volley, and one I've watched about 100 times plus since the weekend. We have to talk about Charlton. They had their spells. They were bright. They had lots of the ball. They're a good side. They've got good players. Jake Forster-Caskey, Jaden Stockley, Chuks and Ike. The lad on the left, Liam Miller, I think it was on loan from Liverpool, was decent, although his end product probably needed a bit of work. It's a good goal, the second goal, isn't it? It's a decent ball into the box. Jaden Stockley's movement's decent. We can nitpick and say that it's our centre-back should do better and pick him up, but this is a bloke who's been plying his trade in the Championship, was very, very good at Exeter as well, scored loads and loads of goals. His movement was spot on, drifts into space, and even then the ball slightly behind him, but it's a cracking header, arches his neck and gets power, heads it down into the corner, and Jack Bonham's got absolutely no chance. From there we had to see how Gills would react again, and I thought we were really good. Lee Bowyer said after the game that Reece has referenced to, that only Charlton win the game if it stays 11v11. It's not a red card. It's Steve Evans getting in the ear of the fourth official. Sorry, Lee, but you sound like a desperate man who's on the edge, to be honest. I don't think we was given a foul until about 35, 40 minutes in. I'm reading on social media. The first caution comes because he jumps through Jack Tucker. Maybe if it was the caution was for that, then it's a little bit soft. You can say it's 2 honest players going for the ball. But to compound doing that, he then gets up, sees Robbie Cundy pick up the ball, pushes him over. So it's 2 offences in a matter of 10 seconds. So if he's been booked for that, then it's fully justified. If he's been booked for a combination of the 2, then it's fully justified. And then a minute later to go and put your studs through Conor Ogilvy's knee, whether you've meant it or not, is stupid. You've given the referee a decision to make. For me, he's got the right decision. It's a second booking. Lee Bowyer said he can't book a player so soon after cautioning him originally. Well, he can if it's a foul, Lee. That's the rules, unfortunately. Doesn't matter whether they're 10 seconds, 10 minutes or 75 minutes apart. If they're 2 bookable offences, they're 2 bookable offences, and they are for me, and Anike's rightly been dismissed. It was then just a case, like Reece said, of whether we'd go for the jugular or would we settle for a point. And like Reece has mentioned, we left it a little later than was perhaps ideal. But I think there was a time where it did look like it was coming, and it looked like we could nick the 3 points rather than just the 1. And we gave them a warning, didn't we? Ryan Jackson done really well down the right-hand side. I think played a 1-2 with Carl Dempsey. It's then a really good cutback from Jacko. And Ollie Lee, sweet as a nut, collects first time. Unfortunately, it cannons off the underside of the bar and bounces out, and they clear it. But then we're really good from there. And it sort of dispels the notion of us being just a long ball side as well. And that's another thing that Lee Bowyer mentioned, said that we're long ball and it's not fun to watch, and you don't like losing to sides like us. Well, we attempted 71 long balls and Charlton attempted 86, I think it was, give or take, looking at the stats on the app that I use. So we all do it, Lee. We all play to our strengths. I've listened to the D3, D4 podcast this morning, and they've mentioned on there that it's there's no wrong way to play football, is there? You play to your strengths. We play to ours, which is we hit John Akindi and Verdane Oliver early if we have to, and then play round them from second balls and runners and people getting in behind. But by no means that's not the only way we can play. We've got Carl Dempsey, we've got Ollie Lee, we've got Jordan Graham when he's fit, we've got Dominic Samuel when he's fit, we've got Alex McDonald. They can all get the ball down, they can all pick a pass, and I think it's slightly insulting to say that we're one-dimensional. We play to our strengths and we go long when we have to, but there's a method to it, and if it's getting results, then I'm quite happy, especially when it's annoying Lee Bowyer as well. But yeah, like I say, we gave them the warning with the Ollie Lee shot hitting the crossbar, and then we recycled it really well. I think it was Robbie McKenzie picked the ball up and went left-hand side. Tommy O'Connor looking for a pass, wasn't a ball into the box, so we've kept it. We've then gone square again out into Robbie McKenzie in the centre circle. And then he's had a look and he's gone the other way to stretch and shuffle Charlton across to keep them on their toes and keep them moving. Carl Dempsey drives into the box. Charlton, for some reason, back off and back off and back off. You're asking for trouble if you allow a player of Dempsey's quality to drive into the box. The angle's narrowing, and for me, I thought, oh, should he drill it across the 6-yard box? That's why I talk about football, and that's why Carl Dempsey's the captain of Gillingham Football Club, because he arrows an absolute rocket across Ben Amos. I think if he'd got in the way, he'd have gone in with it. And 4 minutes from the end, I went mad at my dining room table watching the laptop. And I'm sure plenty of Gills fans across Kent did exactly the same. Like I've already mentioned, the only shame was that we weren't in that away end where it was smashed into the net, because, to quote the youngsters, there would have been limbs. And it would have been a cracking end to a cracking away day. Right, that's enough about the Charlton game, though. We do have a fixture on Tuesday, so thank you to Reece for your thoughts. But I now look ahead to this team coming to ME7. Darren Ferguson's Peterborough will pitch up in Kent, sitting third in the Sky Bet League One table with games in hand above the two sides above them. I do believe Hull City and Lincoln City. Looking at the comparative form, last 6 in League One, Gills have gone win, draw, loss, win. So 11 points from 18 over the last half a dozen, which is a decent return. Certainly signs of improvement since the January reshuffle. Peterborough, win, draw, loss, win. So slightly better, 13 points from 18. It's an extra win where we've drawn one more. So not a lot in it in terms of the last 6. Home and away, patchy for both. Gills, 2 wins, a draw and 3 defeats gives us 7 points from 18. And Posh, a win, 3 defeats and 2 draws gives them 5 from 18 on the road in their last 6, which was slightly surprising considering where they are in the table. Obviously indicates that their form at London Road is really, really solid. 5 home wins in the League One for Gills this season. 5 away wins in League One this season for the Posh. 2 home clean sheets for us, only 4 away clean sheets for them. So it indicates goals for me. I think it should be a decent spectacle and be 2 sides that want to go out and have a go and try to win. They've got plenty of quality, we know that. Johnson Clark Harris has got 15 in 26 games in the league this season. They've not missed Ivan Toney with him coming in. Sami Samodic has got 6 in 23 from an attacking midfield role. Very good player at this level. Was decent at Colchester and got his move to the Championship where it didn't quite work out. But he's settled back into life in League One and doing really well. Christy Pym, decent at this level. Frankie Kent. Joe Ward, I think, scored a really good goal against us a couple of seasons ago. Sariki Dembele, we know all about his quality if he's not falling over. I jest, Peterborough fans. Nathan Thompson and Mark Beavers will provide plenty of experience in a back line. And they've got the lad John Taylor who came in from Barnet in 2020. He's got 5 in 28 from midfield. Really good signing. So we know it's going to be tough. We know, like Saturday, we're going to have to be at it from whistle to whistle. There's no period in the game where we'll be able to slacken off and get away with anything. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, especially after Saturday's win. It was a great reaction to getting beat on Sky Sports, wasn't it, the week before, to a very good Lincoln side who had a bit of help. And yeah, it should be a really good game. In terms of team news for the Gills, there'll be no Dominic Samuel. Highly unlikely that Jordan Graham or Callum Slattery will be available. But Steve Evans is giving them every opportunity to be fit. But he said that it's likely that Tuesday night will come slightly too soon. So fingers crossed we'll have them back for the weekend visit of Bristol Rovers, I think it is. So for me, do we make changes? It's tough because it was a good win, but Stuart O'Keefe for me looked a little bit off the pace, which is understandable. Could we bring Alex McDonald into the midfield as well? For me, I'd go Jack Bonham, Ryan Jackson, Jack Tucker, Robbie Cundy and Conor Ogilvie as a goalkeeper and back four. Wouldn't change that at all. If Stuart O'Keefe can't do 2 games in 3 days as part of his recovery, then Robbie McKenzie can come into the base of the diamond for me. Carl Dempsey starts from the right-hand side. Tommy O'Connor or Alex McDonald from the left for me, not bothered. Ollie Lee in the 10, and then we keep the same front pairing of Verdane Oliver and John Akindi. So my bench would be Sacha Bastien, Christian Magoma, Robbie McKenzie if Stuart O'Keefe does start. If not, then obviously it's Stuart O'Keefe. Matty Willock, James Morton, Tyreek Johnson, and then one of Alex MacDonald or Tom O'Connor. Right, score prediction. As always, I am going to go for an entertaining game. The lack of clean sheets, the comparatively patchy home and away form of the respective sides leads me to a final score of Gillingham 1, Peterborough 1, and I'm going to back John Akindi to get his 5th of the season. Right, that is enough from me today. Enjoy your Monday evening once you finish work. Sorry, I've got a day off. I don't want to gloat. As always, thanks for watching and thanks for listening to me chatting. Again, thanks to Reece. Really enjoyed listening to his views of the weekend win. Please keep checking out Fan Hub. It is very close now. The app is really taking shape. Keep liking, subscribing, retweeting and doing all that you do. We're very close to 1,500. I think it's down to 12 now. So I will keep going on until we get there, and then I promise to shut up about it. Until next time, up the Gills.